What is a good presentation? How do you make it a fun thing to do, create audience interest, and get the results that you want? My name is Kuno Terwind, teacher in presentation skills, storytelling, business station, Willem de Kooning Academy. In the next 10 minutes, I will help you to set up your presentation through this worksheet. It will give you answers in what kind of information to put in your presentation and how to communicate it effectively with your audience. This worksheet asks you some key questions that you need to answer. I will introduce and explain each question that will be followed by a beep. After each beep, you can pause the video, fill out your answer, press play again. Here we go. Okay, this is the worksheet presentation skills. It's meant to help you setting up your presentation and to break down this huge issue of presenting into much smaller parts that are easy to handle and much easier to work with. It's not there to tell you exactly what to do. Keep looking for your own individual and unique way of presenting your work that's good for you and therefore much more interesting to your audience. The sheet consists of different areas asking you questions, and by answering these questions, you get a sense of what elements your story requires to be effective and how to communicate those to your audience. What we see here is three main fields of your presentation: basics, the content, and the structure of your story. Let's start with the basics. Before you even commence writing text or practicing, it's good to answer these three questions concerning subject, audience, and objective. They will be a reference throughout setting up your presentation all the way to the end. Subject. Make sure you have sufficient knowledge over whatever you're talking about. You feel much more in control and the audience will start to see you as an expert, which is important since that way they are much easier to convince. What is your presentation about exactly? What is the key subject of your presentation? Please fill that out now. Audience. Make sure you know who you're talking to. Everything you say, all the information that's being put in this presentation, the feel of your story should be connecting to your specific audience. So to whom is this presentation addressed? Who exactly are you talking to? Objective. What is the goal of your presentation? I'm talking about a short-term goal here. So not a long-term, which could be a little vague and uncertain. What should be happening right after you're done with your presentation? Content. What kind of information could be interesting to use in your presentation? What we're looking at here is the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek, and it asks us three questions, key questions: what, how, and why. These three questions need to be answered in any story for your audience to fully comprehend. Let's start with what. What exactly are you offering your audience in your presentation? What is the main reason for them to keep listening? How means we're going into your topic a little deeper and we want to know how it all works. So maybe you can give us an inside look or give us some information on the process, take us into the topic, into your subject, and tell us a little more about it. Why is the most emotional and the deepest field of the Golden Circle? It triggers feelings circling motivation and drive. So, why are you telling me this? Or, why should the audience be listening to you? These three questions, what, how, and why, can be answered in any particular order. The most traditional way, of course, is introducing yourself, your topic, going into it, and tell us a little bit about your motivation. But why not use a more modern way of storytelling? Start with your drive and answer all the other questions after that. In any case, For your audience to fully understand your story, these 3 questions must all be answered. Okay, then we get to structure. Structure is the order of all elements in your presentation. So the logical steps to get from the beginning to the middle to the end. In other words, the storyline. Make sure they're all somehow connected to create a coherent flow throughout your presentation. In the beginning, your audience attention is always high, so take advantage of that and start with something that will pull them directly into your story. That could be a motivation, that could be a drive, but there's of course numerous other ways to do that, and I wrote down some examples just for your inspiration right here. So please note down everything that you want to say or do in the first section, the beginning of your presentation. The middle part is usually the longest part of your presentation. So it's perfect to get into the story and give us information, examples, and details on your subject. So what's happening in action and words in this middle part of your presentation? For the end, you want to really close effectively. It's important since people remember the end very well. Classic ways to end a presentation are a conclusion, summary, or maybe future perspective. Personally, I always like a full circle ending, where the last thing you say connects to the very first thing you said all the way in the beginning. So please write down how exactly you want to end your story. As a result, there are 2 possible outcomes of your presentation. You want your audience to do and to remember something. If you want your audience to do something, it's kind of hard. A lot of people don't want to do anything after a presentation, but it's possible. So make sure it's clear and note in this box exactly what actions you want your audience to take right after your presentation. In terms of what you want your audience to remember, please realize people's memory is limited. Don't overestimate that. I'd say they remember about 4 or 5 things max. So what are those things? What are the key elements to remember in your presentation? Altogether, this sheet gives you a better overview of your presentation. It breaks it down to smaller parts that can be handled much easier. By answering all questions, you should now have the separate parts of your story all written down. Experiment with it and try to make your presentation personal and unique. You'll feel much more comfortable and in control, and that's what really works for an audience. That concludes the worksheet presentation skills. I wish you all the best, 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 all the best in making your presentation better.